I thought working for Trump would be like any other high-profile government job. Long hours, tight security, and ridiculous bureaucracy. But the day I was hired, they handed me a list of rules. Some of them made sense in a paranoid, powerful man kind of way. But others have been keeping me up at night. I don't know who wrote these rules. I just know I have to follow them. The rules of working for Trump.
Rule number 1. When you enter his office, do not speak until spoken to. If he stares at you for more than 30 seconds without saying a word, leave immediately and do not return until the next day. Rule number 2. If Trump ever goes underground, you are the President of the United States until he returns. The codes will be sent to your phone. Do not reject them. Do not question them. If he does not return within 36 hours, follow the final protocol in the red folder under your desk. Do not open it until the deadline has passed. Rule number 3. Every night at exactly 12:04 a.m., you will hear his voice coming from your work phone. Do not answer it. The last person who did was found wandering deep in the Nevada desert, barefoot, dehydrated, and muttering coordinates that led to the site of the 1950 Kinross incident. His eyes had turned completely black. If the call continues for more than 5 minutes, remove the phone's battery and place it in the lead-lined box under your desk. You must not listen to what it says. You must never let it finish speaking. Rule number 4. If China initiates a full-scale military attack, retrieve the black briefcase from the Oval Office safe and open Document C. Inside, there will be a name. Find this person immediately. They will know what to do. Do not ask them questions. Do not follow them. And most importantly, do not look at their face. Rule number 5. If Russia fires a nuclear missile, activate Operation Winter Palace by pressing the red button under Trump's desk. It will not prevent impact. It will, however, ensure that something much worse than nuclear retaliation happens to Russia. Do not read the details of the operation. You don't want to know. Rule number 6. If North Korea launches an attack, check the Pentagon's private live feed. If you see Pyongyang still standing, proceed with standard countermeasures. If you see nothing but empty land, immediately evacuate to the lowest floor of the White House and await further instructions. You are not allowed to know what just happened. Rule number 7. On the second Tuesday of November, do not come to work. Do not turn on the news. Do not acknowledge any reports of missing people. Do not answer your phone, even if it's a relative. The last time this happened was on November 9th, 1965, when the entire northeastern United States blacked out for 13 hours and over 400 people were erased from public records overnight. The official reports blame a faulty relay. That is a lie. If you survive the day, you may return to work as if nothing happened. If you fail, you will not be returning at all.
After a couple hours, the job offer came without warning. No application, no interview, no vetting process. Just a plain white envelope in my mailbox with a single phrase printed on the front. You're hired. At first I thought it was a prank. The return address was nothing but a stamp reading official business in cold, bold letters. I hadn't even been looking for a job. But inside, there was a date and time for me to report to work, along with an unsigned note that simply read, "Do not be late." I should have thrown it away. I should have ignored it. But something about it made my hands shake. It wasn't fear. It wasn't excitement. It was a feeling I couldn't name, like a thread being pulled inside my brain, unraveling something I wasn't supposed to see, and against every ounce of my better judgment, I showed up. The building was bigger than I expected. It wasn't the White House, but it wasn't some back office operation either. The guards at the gate waved me through without checking my ID, without scanning me, without even asking my name. That was the first red flag. The second came when I was led inside and given a desk without any introductions. No orientation, no HR paperwork, just a seat and folder marked Level 5. That's when I remembered something that made my stomach twist.
Rule number 1. When you enter his office, do not speak until spoken to. If he stares at you for more than 30 seconds without saying a word, leave immediately and do not return until the next day.
I frowned. Power trip bullshit, I thought. Probably just an intimidation tactic, maybe even a joke. Then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Report to the office, now. I swallowed hard. The air felt heavier. I didn't know why. One of the security officers escorted me down a long hallway. It felt like the temperature dropped the closer we got. The walls were lined with portraits, but something was off. The faces weren't right. I couldn't place why. Just that their eyes seemed too dark, their smiles too forced. Finally, we reached his office. The door opened without a sound, and there he was. Donald Trump sat at his desk, fingers interlocked, eyes locked onto mine the second I entered. The room was dimly lit. The furniture gleamed, gold trim catching the light, but everything else felt off. The air smelled faintly metallic, like burnt wires or blood. The temperature was too cold, and yet I could feel something burning beneath my skin. I didn't speak. I waited. 30 seconds passed. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just stared. The longer I stood there, the more I felt something pushing against my skull, like an invisible force pressing in, squeezing my thoughts, making my vision blur at the edges. The lights flickered, my pulse pounded. 31 seconds. I turned on my heel and walked out. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me, like I was wading through something thick and invisible. And the moment the door shut behind me, the screaming started, blood-curdling, violent. Shrieks of agony and rage. Something slammed into the walls hard enough to shake the floor. I froze. The hallway trembled. Glass shattered. A deep, guttural roar, so loud it rattled my ribs, thundered through the air. I turned back, expecting Secret Service to come rushing in, but the two guards outside his door, they didn't move. They just stood there, blank-faced, staring straight ahead, as if they couldn't hear it. Another crash, louder this time. A wet, tearing sound followed. The walls seemed to bulge, like something massive was pressing against them from the inside. I took a step back. The air felt cold and miserable, like the whole world was shifting, like reality itself was bending around that office. The guards remained motionless, but I swore, for a split second, their shadows moved. Something wasn't right. I didn't wait to find out what. I turned and ran. I sprinted down the hall, my breath ragged, my mind screaming at me to keep moving. Every instinct told me not to look back, but I did. And in that brief moment, as I glanced over my shoulder, I saw something that still haunts me. The door to Trump's office was gone. The wall where it had been was seamless, smooth, like it had never been there at all, and the screaming had stopped. Dead silence. I didn't stop running until I was outside, gasping for breath, cold sweat soaking through my shirt. I checked the time. It was still my first day on the job, and I was already wondering if I'd make it to my second. The days after the office incident felt off. I tried to tell myself it was just nerves, just my overactive imagination running wild. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Something had changed in that hallway at a office, in the air itself. I didn't go back to Trump's office for days. They said I was to report to his personal aide for my next assignment, but something told me that was just a formality. He'd been around the office that day, but never in his usual spot. Always somewhere else. Some unknown room I didn't dare try to find. Then the phone call came. It was just after 9 p.m. when my phone buzzed, jolting me out of a restless sleep. The number was blocked. I almost didn't answer, but something inside me told me not to ignore it. I should have ignored it. The voice on the other end was familiar, but it was distorted. Like the static on a long-distance call, a low hum droned in the background, faint and unnatural. "He's going underground." That was all the voice said before the line went dead. I sat there staring at the phone, heart pounding in my chest. It wasn't the call itself that terrified me. It was the sheer weight of those words. They were too simple, too clear, as if I should already know exactly what was happening. Trump was going underground. I had read the second rule, of course, but reading it was one thing. Experiencing it was something else entirely. Rule 2 had become real. I grabbed the laminated sheet from my desk, my hands trembling. The words were etched into my memory, but I needed to see them again. If Trump ever goes underground, you are the President of the United States until he returns. The codes will be sent to your phone. Do not reject them. Do not question them. If he does not return within 36 hours, follow the final protocol in the red folder under your desk. Do not open it until the deadline has passed. I looked down at my phone. The screen was blank. Then a new message arrived. The codes will arrive soon. Prepare yourself. I didn't know how to prepare for something like this. The next few hours were a blur of waiting. The air in my apartment felt heavy, suffocating. I could almost hear the hum that had been on the phone call now, vibrating the walls and filling my thoughts. My body felt like it was being pulled in several directions at once. I didn't know what was happening, but I could feel it, pressing in on me. Trump was underground. I knew what that meant, of course. The rules were clear, but there was a part of me that still couldn't quite believe it. He's the president. He can't just disappear. It wasn't possible, but what if it wasn't him who had gone? What if it was me? What if I had already crossed some invisible line? I was about to question it again when my phone buzzed. The codes had arrived. It was a message, a string of numbers, letters, and symbols. Nonsense to anyone but me. I knew exactly what they meant. My hand shook as I entered the first set into the secure system. I tried to tell myself it was fine. I tried to tell myself that everything had been arranged, that this was just part of the job, that I was being trained for this moment. But there was no hiding the truth. I was the president now. For the next 36 hours, I would be running the country, alone, without a clue about how or why. The sheer weight of it was like an anvil crushing my chest. I was in charge. I didn't dare open the red folder immediately. I couldn't. The rules were clear about that. But I had to check the folder. My desk, now a war zone of notes and papers I hadn't touched in days, seemed to tremble as my fingers brushed the edge of the red folder. It wasn't heavy, but it felt wrong, like it was a baggage of secrets that I wasn't supposed to carry. I grabbed the folder, my fingers almost sticking to it. The paper was smooth, but too stiff. There was no label, no markings, just red. I pulled it open with a sense of dread, the contents feeling like they were waiting for me, like the folder itself was breathing. Inside, there was one piece of paper. The words were typed, but the font was strange, jagged, like something was trying to break through the text. Follow the chain of command until the return of the president. Should he fail to return within the time frame, activate protocol Delta. Only one witness will remain. No records. No survivors. I read it again just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. No survivors? My heart skipped a beat. I grabbed the folder and slammed it shut, pushing it away like it was an infectious disease. The contents were clear, but what did they mean? I wasn't supposed to open it. I wasn't supposed to ask questions. I glanced at my phone. The countdown had begun. I had 36 hours. If Trump didn't return, I would have to activate Protocol Delta. And something deep inside me, something primal, told me I didn't want to know what that meant. I had 5 minutes left. 35 hours and 55 minutes had passed. The weight of the red folder pressed against my mind like a tumor. I hadn't opened it since that first night, but I could feel it there, waiting, mocking me. I'd spent the last day doing nothing but waiting, watching the timer tick down, checking my phone every 5 seconds, wondering what the hell was going to happen when the countdown hit 0. I wasn't trained for this. I wasn't ready for this. And then, with 3 minutes left on the clock, he came back. There was no grand announcement, no media coverage, no Secret Service briefing. I just got a text. He's back. Stand down. That was it. The screen flickered slightly, just for a second, as if the message itself had glitched into existence. My phone felt too cold in my hands. Then, almost immediately, another message arrived. Destroy the red folder. Now. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the folder and ran to the sink, turning the faucet to scalding hot as I ripped it to shreds. The paper burned as the ink bled into the water, the words disappearing into the drain like they had never existed. By the time the last scrap had dissolved, my phone buzzed one final time. Good, report back tomorrow. And just like that, it was over. Trump was back. The code stopped coming. The country returned to its normal state, as if none of it had ever happened. For a while, things were normal, or at least as normal as they could be when you work for a man who can vanish off the face of the earth and reappear like nothing happened. No one mentioned his disappearance. No one acknowledged that I had been the president for those 36 hours. The rules remained in place, but nothing big happened. No strange messages, no eerie, assignments, no more red folders. I should have been relieved, but instead the silence felt like an itch I couldn't scratch, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Then, 1 month later, it all went to hell. It started with Rule 3, then Rule 4, then Rule 5, all in the span of 2 days. I didn't understand it at first, not fully. The pieces didn't click together until it was too late. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already in too deep, and when I look back on those 2 days, on everything that happened, I still don't know how I survived. But I do know one thing. Rules 3, 4, and 5 changed everything. It started at 12:04 a.m. I had been dreading it all night, but when my work phone finally rang, I still jumped. The screen lit up with a number I had never seen before. No caller ID, no location, just a connection that shouldn't exist. I stared at it, my breath caught in my throat, my mind screaming at me to follow the rule.
Rule 3. Every night at exactly 12:04 a.m., you will hear his voice coming from your work phone. Do not answer it. The last person who did was found wandering deep in the Nevada desert, barefoot, dehydrated, and muttering coordinates that led to the site of the 1950 Kinross incident. His eyes had turned completely black. If the call continues for more than 5 minutes, remove the phone's battery and place it in the lead-lined box under your desk. You must not listen to what it says. You must never let it finish speaking. I didn't move. The ringing stopped. Then the voicemail icon popped up. I had no intention of listening to it, but before I could even process what to do next, the phone rang again. I swore under my breath. It wasn't supposed to ring twice. The rules didn't mention that.
This time the caller ID had changed. Not a number, not a name, just a single word. Answer. I squeezed my eyes shut, grabbed the phone, yanked the battery out, and shoved it into the lead-lined box under my desk. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely close the latch. Then I heard the whisper. It wasn't coming from the phone. It was right behind me. A single phrase, spoken in a voice that didn't belong to anyone alive. You should have listened in. I didn't sleep. By morning, I was still sitting at my desk, my mind replaying the call over and over, trying to convince myself that it was over, that I had followed the rule and done what I was supposed to. Then my emergency pager went off.
Rule 4. If China initiates a full-scale military attack, retrieve the black briefcase from the Oval Office safe and open document C. Inside, there will be a name. Find this person immediately. They will know what to do. Do not ask them questions. Do not follow them. And most importantly, do not look at their face.
I was in the building before the news broke. By the time I stepped into the Oval Office, I already knew. The air was thick with tension. The staff moved like ghosts, eyes wide, voices hushed. The briefcase was waiting for me. I unlocked the safe, my pulse pounding as I pulled it out. It was heavier than I expected, the leather worn, the edges scorched like it had survived a fire. Inside, document C was waiting. One single page, one single name. And I felt my stomach drop the moment I saw it. I knew that name. Everyone did. It was the name of a man who had died decades ago. I didn't know what else to do. The rule was clear. Find him. Don't ask questions, don't follow, don't look at his face. I drove to the location listed in the file, a remote gas station on the outskirts of a town that wasn't supposed to exist. The place looked abandoned, the pumps were rusted, the windows were boarded up. But as I stepped inside, I saw him standing at the counter, waiting. My heart was in my throat. He looked exactly like his photographs, exactly like he did before he died. I forced myself to speak. I was told to find you. He nodded once. Then he turned and walked toward the door at the back of the store. I didn't follow. I couldn't. Because just as he reached for the doorknob, I glanced at his reflection in the window. And his face was super ugly. Not disfigured, not monstrous, just really ugly. Like a bad memory I couldn't quite place. Like something that didn't belong in this world. Then he opened the door and stepped into complete darkness. I blinked, and he was gone. A moment later, my phone buzzed. A single text message. It's done. The news came in an hour later. The attack had been called off. China's forces had retreated. No explanation, no reason given. Just an immediate worldwide de-escalation, like something had scared them, like something had warned them, like something had walked through that back door and into the dark, and never came back. So I drove back to the White House in complete silence. I wanted to ask questions. I wanted to know who or what I had just spoken to, but I knew better. I followed the rule. I never asked. I never looked back. And as I stepped into my office, I saw a fresh note waiting on my desk. Report back. Rule 5 is now in effect. I took a deep breath, my hands still trembling. I thought I had seen the worst of it. I was so wrong. The message on my desk was simple. Report back. Rule 5 is now in effect. I hadn't even processed what happened with Rule 4 yet, but there was no time. My mind was still caught on that name, on the figure I'd met in the gas station, on the way the entire world had shifted course in a matter of hours. But the rules didn't care about what I was ready for. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out the yellow folder labeled 5. My hands were still shaking as I flipped it open.
Rule 5. If Russia or North Korea initiate a nuclear strike, go to the Eisenhower bunker immediately. Do not stop to talk to anyone. Inside the bunker, there will be a single red telephone. Answer it. You will be given instructions. Follow them exactly. If the phone rings a second time, leave the bunker immediately and do not look back. Do not listen to what it says. Do not stay underground. If you remain, you will not be the same when you come back up.
The file contained no further explanation, no emergency protocols, just the rule. A knock at my door snapped me out of my daze. One of the security officers stood there, his face tense. "It's happening," he said. They didn't tell me who. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe it didn't matter. All I knew was that the countdown had started, and my orders were clear. I ran. The hallways of the White House were a blur. The alarms were deafening, blaring from every direction. Yet the place was silent in a way that made my stomach twist. No shouts, no panicked conversations. Everyone knew what this meant. By the time I reached the bunker entrance, the door was already being sealed. Behind me. Thick, reinforced steel. The kind of door that wasn't meant to open again for a long time. Maybe ever. The moment it locked, the phone rang. The red one. Sitting on a small table in the center of the room, its old rotary dial gleaming under the fluorescent lights. I hesitated, my breath shallow, my hands damp. Then I picked it up. The voice on the other end was mechanical. Not robotic, not synthesized. Mechanical. Like something trying to imitate speech using gears and wires instead of vocal cords. It spoke in English, but the cadence was wrong, the syllables placed in a way that made my brain itch. "You will proceed to panel 3. You will input the following code." A sequence of numbers followed. I repeated them back, barely understanding what I was doing. My body moved on autopilot as I walked to the panel near the far wall and typed in the code. A click, then a soft rhythmic hum began vibrating through the bunker floor. My ears popped. The air pressure shifted. It felt like the entire room had just been dropped into the deepest part of the ocean. I turned back to the phone. What did I just do? The line went silent. A second later, the phone rang again. My entire body tensed. The rule.
If the phone rings a second time, leave the bunker immediately and do not look back. Do not listen to what it says. Do not stay underground. If you remain, you will not be the same when you come back up.
Every cell in my body screamed at me to pick it up. What if I hadn't finished? What if I had made a mistake? What if this was the real call and the first one had been the mistake? The hum in the walls grew louder. The lights flickered. The phone rang again. Louder this time. Urgent. I bolted. I ran for the exit, my footsteps echoing against the concrete. My access card shook in my grip as I swiped it. The steel door groaned as it began to open. Slower than I could stand. The air behind me felt thick, pressing against my back like a wall of static. The hum had turned into a pulse, something deep, something alive. The phone was still ringing. A new sound joined it, a scraping, something moving against the far wall of the bunker just out of my sight. I refused to turn around. I couldn't. The door was open just enough. I squeezed through, shoving myself into the corridor and slamming my palm against the emergency close button. The last thing I heard before the door sealed shut was the ringing stopping mid-tone, then silence. I don't know what happened after that. By the time I reached the surface, the strike had been called off. Just like before. The world had stepped back from the brink. There were no reports of a countermeasure, no intercepted attacks. It was like the threat had simply ceased to exist. I never found out what I had activated in that bunker, or who or what, had called me the second time. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I hear a faint hum beneath my feet, and I wonder if I really made it out at all. A few minutes passed, and already I had to deal with rules 6 and 7. It started at 2:36 a.m. I was half asleep in my office, my head resting on the desk, when my phone vibrated with a priority alert. A single sentence lit up the screen. Pentagon feed. Now. I nearly dropped the phone as I scrambled upright, my hands fumbling for the laptop. My brain wasn't fully awake yet, but my body was. Rule 6. I'd read it 100 times, memorized every word. If North Korea launches an attack, check the Pentagon's private live feed. I logged in, my fingers shaking. The satellite feed flickered to life. My lungs stopped working. Pyongyang was gone. Not burning, not leveled, not reduced to rubble. Just gone. A perfect circle of nothing. No buildings, no roads, no ground. The city had been scooped out of existence like a hole punched through the world. The edges of the crater were smooth, unnatural. Like whatever had done this hadn't destroyed Pyongyang, but simply removed it. The screen flashed. Incoming call. I didn't recognize the number, but I knew better than to answer. My eyes darted back to the screen. The feed was shaking now, static creeping in at the edges. Something was moving inside the void where Pyongyang had been. The call kept ringing. I closed the laptop and ran. I barely made it to the White House basement before the first tremor hit. The lights burst. The ground swayed like something enormous had just exhaled beneath it. My ears popped. My skin felt like it was being peeled away from my bones. Then, nothing. Silence. My phone vibrated again. One new message. You are not allowed to know what just happened. I didn't have time to process it before Rule 7 arrived. I woke up with a migraine so bad, I thought my skull was splitting. My body felt like it had been chewed up and spit out. I had no memory of the previous day. None. I checked my call log. 67 missed calls, all from different numbers. I checked my messages. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Please pick up. The news was worse. Hundreds of people went missing overnight. No patterns, no connections. Entire families gone, their houses standing untouched, as if they'd simply stepped out of existence. And the worst part? Nobody remembered them. I checked my contact list. Names were missing. People I had known for years. Gone. My phone auto-filled numbers that no longer had owners. Their social media pages were erased. Their digital footprints had been wiped clean. It was like they had never existed. I searched for what happened in 1965. The Northeast blackout. The faulty relay. The 400 erased. I kept scrolling until I found a surviving newspaper scan. A grainy, black and white photo of an empty city street. Blurry figures barely visible in the darkness. My stomach turned to ice. One of the figures was looking directly at the camera. At me. It had no face. Just smooth, featureless skin where its eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. Like something unfinished. I closed the tab. A final notification lit up my phone. You survived. Return to work. Now I don't know how long I've been awake. My body is screaming for rest, but I can't sleep. I won't. Because I know what will happen if I do. Everything was fine for a while. Or at least I thought it was. Then I started noticing things. I'd pass a mirror and see my reflection standing still when I moved. I'd hear my phone vibrate only to find no notifications. The Oval Office clock never changed. 3:17 a.m. Always. And the worst part? Nobody else noticed. I tried to bring it up once to an advisor I trusted. Asked him if he noticed anything strange. He just smiled. A wide, too wide smile that stretched his skin in ways that didn't look possible. And then he asked, "Who told you?" I didn't answer. I didn't breathe. His face didn't move, not even to blink. I left the room, locked the door, and never spoke to him again. Last night I found the final document. It wasn't on my desk. It wasn't emailed. It was under my skin. I woke up to a sharp pain in my forearm, like something was buried there. I dug my nails into my flesh, tore at it until my fingers closed around something solid. I pulled. It slid out far too easily. A small strip of paper, slick with my own blood. It had a single sentence written on it. You were never meant to wake up. The clock still says 3:17 a.m. My phone is ringing. The caller ID is blank. There's someone standing outside my office door. I can see their shadow beneath the frame. They've been there for hours, not moving, not breathing, just waiting. I don't know what will happen next, but I think I finally understand. I was never supposed to leave that bunker. The government created a clone to replace me. I managed to escape using some tricks I learned in my short time on the job. And then, in just a few short weeks, it was over. The moment the people above Trump realized how close the United States came to absolute ruin, they acted. The very next day, they appointed a new president, a liberal Democrat, and for exactly 48 hours things seemed normal. Then, on the third morning, the sky turned black. Not dark, black. The air became thick, like wet cement. Breathing felt like drowning. People tried to run, but their bodies wouldn't move. Their skin melted before their bones even hit the ground. By the second night, the United States was gone. Not destroyed, not conquered, just gone. Trump's rules might have been insane, but they kept the country alive. For all the horrors that came under his watch, this was worse. And I was left standing at the edge of a vast, silent wasteland, alone, with nothing left to govern.